Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences, we'll let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Hi, and welcome back to Realistic Sustainability. I'm Mike, and I'm here with Nick.
Good evening, my brother.
How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Doing okay, other than the fact that I believe somehow, some way, our state has decided to pretend like it's Florida.
Well, it's possible. It's a little late for April Fools, and it's too early for Halloween, so there must be something else going on. But the weather has been a lot of shenanigans lately.
Yeah, it's just super, super muggy all day, like 98% humidity. A couple more percent, and you're at super saturation. And then all of a sudden, we just get a massive rainstorm that lasts, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, and then it's sunny.
Yeah, you're right. And while I'm accustomed to Michigan's weather changing, pretty quickly, we were driving from the corner of 13 and M21. We dropped Rosie, or I picked Rosie up from her dad's, and I watched the storm blow in, and the sky, it looked huge. Everything was black and dark, and the wind was so erratic. We got home, it was like, shh, done. I was like, wow, there's literally nothing. Okay, well, that works. But it was peculiar, and I am the kind of person, I love storms. I like to watch them. And so I was a little bummed out. I like watching nature with all its fury.
So, Aiden is learning to drive, and it's time for him to start driving everywhere. So you have to have, 50 hours with 40 of it during the day and 10 at night?
Yeah.
Well, I would have him drive me places, and then all of a sudden these storms would move in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's immediately going, no, you can drive home. He's not quite confident yet. He's doing good, though. He's putting in the effort, taking the time, understanding the rules. He's having all the same pitfalls and normal stuff, but he's doing pretty good. But the storms don't help.
The storms don't help at all. When I was on my way home from what was that city? Gaines, and I drove through some dark weather yesterday, and I'll tell you what, as a seasoned anti-driver is what I've been called, because I'm not the greatest driver, but as a seasoned driver, I don't like driving through super heavy rain like that. Not where it's, even with your wipers on their fastest setting, it doesn't seem to make a difference. Where the rain's coming down so hard, you don't even get like a half second of visibility. I don't care for that at all. I understand his apprehension.
Yeah, there's times you just have to pull over. If it's that bad, you just wait it out a little bit. And that's what I want to teach him. But he's still a little timid, and I get it. Just recently, I had to go somewhere, and it hit us again like that, to the point where I was right on the edge of, I'll just pull into this overpass and wait it out. But it's been unique as of late, and I am not a fan of humidity.
I'm not a fan of humidity either, but I would think that you would be cheering this weather on. You couldn't have asked for a better climate in terms of the rainfall we've had for edible landscaping. Those plants are going bananas.
Well, and it's not even just those. I have household plants that are tropical plants that I've just left outside this summer. I have a pitcher plant that loves the humidity and wants that extra moisture, and it's growing pitcher after pitcher after pitcher all the way around it. And in case anybody's wondering what a pitcher plant is and doesn't know, it is a carnivore. It's a plant that looks like a water pitcher. It grows these little pitchers on it, and insects crawl inside and get digested. So that's sitting on the back porch, along with, as I was mocked on Facebook recently, several maple trees that I found growing around the property. I've planted in pots so that hopefully we can grow them throughout the winter, and by next year have saplings.
Why would you get mocked for that? The maple trees are awesome. Who doesn't love syrup?
Jameson took pictures of all the trees that I quote unquote rescued outside and posted it on Facebook as this is her life now.
Well, I understand. I get it. No, I get it, and it's an adjustment. But for those of us that read The Hobbit or watched the movies, I'm just gonna start calling you Radagast. You're going to be the little brown wizard that grows everything in the forest.
Well, I hope I don't end up with bird poop running down the side of my head. I do know who Radagast is.
Yeah, well, I hope that you don't have bird poop either, but we'll see what happens.
All right. We should probably start our show. And plus, this one, I always say this one's interesting or this one's different, but this one might be challenging. Not only do you have an opportunity to step on a few landmines during this conversation, but some of it hits close to home as I was writing it. We always talk about sustainability in the home, we talk about energy, we talk about food, but we don't always talk about us. And this week, I want to talk about human health and sustainability.
Okay, well, you said landmine, so goody goody. Let's get started.
Just like I just said, we always talk about the things that we're all used to. Which product can we use to reduce our carbon footprint? Or if you're listening to this show, we talk about increasing your positive footprint. But there's other parts of life that help us become more sustainable as a person. And there's a lot of different aspects that we can look at, but it's kind of like making sustainable choices. Are we looking at the world in our body, mind, relationships, finances, the same way we look at a product on the shelf before we buy it? Are we looking at the sustainability of what is happening? What are the choices that we are making? For me, I have an example. I went through a part of my life that was not that fun. Everything kind of got etch-a-sketched. I had to start over in a lot of ways. And I worked in retail. And it's not that I wasn't good at it. It's not that I didn't make good money at it. I was unhappy. And if I stayed there, I wasn't going to get happier. I had hit kind of the ceiling of what I could do. And when everything just kind of fell down there, I had the opportunity to start over. Do I continue with what I know, what is comfortable, and manage my life from there? Or do I take a much harder road, a more sustainable lifestyle? Do I go back to college and learn a new skill? Do I go back to college and learn a new profession? And that is what I did. I went from flunking out of community college before I even started to getting my master's because I took a whole different road in the hopes that it would create a more sustainable future.
First and foremost, before I say anything that is going to be self-condemning, because I know how this can go, I want you to know that I've said this time and time again. There's no one prouder of the choices and changes you made than me, and I brag about you all the time.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. I don't know if that's braggable or worth bragging about. I went and visited universities and was able to learn these things because I honestly believe anybody can. I had to do something. I had to do something that I was going to enjoy. And no offense to the wireless industry, that was not going to be it.
Okay, so I'm going to cut you off. Don't sell yourself short, and I say that because it is braggable, and people don't realize this and they don't understand. But there's a huge amount of people in life that look at their lives as I got to go to work to pay for the things that I actually enjoy doing. But the things they pay for, let's say partying or drinking or going to small town sports games, I'm sure they have fun, but they don't really enjoy those things in the way that you would enjoy your new career. They enjoy them as an escape from the reality they built because they're not happy with their life. So when I say it's braggable, what I am really saying, in way less words than what I'm going to say right now, is that what you did was you stood up and you looked at your life and said, I'm not happy. I'm not only am I not happy, I don't think I will be able to maintain this level of existence and be okay because I've taken all I can take and I just can't bear the mental strain, the burden of this anymore. And I have to make a change. So you took steps, you took a lot of steps, and you took in some the hard ways, but you did it. You did the work, put the time in to completely 180-degree change your life. You turned everything around, and you're still my brother, but you are not the brother I grew up with. Like, it's very different. And that is something that for most people, when they hear that about you, or oh, that's really good, I'm happy for them, but really they can't comprehend, they can't wrap their mind how someone just gets up and changes everything and moves forward with it. Most people fear what they don't understand, and what they don't understand is themselves, and that goes a long way. Most people don't know why they do the things they do; they just know that they do or deal with certain things because maybe they feel like they have to, maybe they feel like they're tied down, maybe they're so miserable with their life, but they don't feel like, either they missed the train or they can't have any more good opportunities. And you made your own opportunities. You literally made your own luck the last 10 years, and it is absolutely gorgeous to watch all the changes you've made. And it's inspiring as a person to see that kind of change happen in the world. And I say that because everyone is capable of doing what you did. Everyone, me, anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. If you have a breath in your body, you can wake up the next day with a different mindset and work towards your goals.
No, and I appreciate hearing that. There's a lot of work, and it's always nice to have someone acknowledge that, and especially you. You're my brother. It's yes, he's doing a happy dance for those who can't see it, uh, um, but it was also because my kids were watching, and I really needed it. But although it seems when you say over the last 10 years like a big thing, and before we really dive into this, it is the same philosophy of what we preach about on this show is how I got through it. And that little bit, big bit came from my mother, who every time I would call her and say, I have barely even gotten through 3 classes at community college. I am never going to get my bachelor's degree. How the heck do I do this? And she would say, well, go to school today and we'll figure it out tomorrow. She kept passing the quit buck until I finally would get there, and then okay, I'd get back into it because I really do enjoy learning, and I think just about everybody does when they get that self-conscious side put away. I think everybody loves to be curious. It was that little piece, another little piece. I got my associates. Well, let's see if they'll let me into Michigan. They let me into Michigan. Well, let's see what happens when I take this class. It's that little bit, big bit that happened in my life to help sustain my life that we preach about every single day.
Absolutely. And the thing that I can't emphasize enough with this is that people minimize their own little bits. A small victory is a small victory. And regardless of whether or not you think you should have did something a long time ago, if you're making positive changes, good for you. Pat yourself on the back. Good behavior should be rewarded. And when I say good behavior, that is exactly what it is. You have to be good to yourself. You have to be able, for starters, to know what you can and can't handle. Because I'm here to tell you, I have some broad shoulders, but there are some days where I just can't stand the weight of the things I've got to do. It gets frustrating. And I mean this when I say this. I have to feel like I'm making a change in the place that I work. So generally, throughout my career, I've stayed at the business about a year and a quarter. And I've moved on because I've got everything there was to learn at that business. And I was no longer, useful there. I mean, yes, I could do my job, but I don't just want to be another gear in the machine. I'm the guy that I'm constantly squeaking. I want to learn more. I want to move up. I want to be better. I want to be able to help more people and I want to have more information. And so that's how I justified a lot of the really negative and terrible behavior that I experienced from employers. And sometimes it was worth it, Mike, but a lot of times I ended up burnout and angry and toxic and just flat out nasty. What I wasn't doing was being fair to myself. I didn't demand respect in the sense that, I didn't really allow myself the luxury of being treated properly. And that might sound strange, but if you don't think you're worth it, you can't expect someone else to treat you like you're worth it. You've got to stand up for yourself. You've got to take your front row seat in your own life and put yourself in the direction you want to go in. And I could go on and on about this. I told you when we were talking about doing this, I told you I could go on and on about human health and wellness and the mental state of people.
Well, I think a lot of times we don't take care of ourselves because we're not either we have to do this for our kids, or we have to do this because we've created these bills that need to be paid, or we have to do this because our parents think we should, or whatever it is. Society says you're a bad person if you don't do this, whatever it happens to be. For some reason, we don't look at us first. It does not matter what society deems okay and doesn't, or what your parents, they can teach us things, but they're just a piece of that input. And that's how for my kids, I'm just a piece of their input. They have to have a sustainable life or it's miserable.
You're right. But don't sell yourself short for your kids. This is true for any parent out there. You are a piece of the input, but what you are is the framework. You're the guiding light. You're the index. You're the glossary. You're the table of contents. For the first 15, 16, really about 13 years of the boy's life and about, 11 years of the girl's life, you are the goblet of life. All you do is give them everything they need. And if you can, some of the stuff they want. But every decision you make directly reflects in their life, everything. So think about all the kids out there that grow up watching their parent slave away a job that kills them and they hate it. And I think what the example that sets, they do it just to feed their family. So that kid is going to grow up one or two ways. They're going to grow up really respecting their parents and commending them and loving them dearly because of the sacrifices they made of their own mental and physical wellness and health. Or they're going to grow up going, well, I got to get a job I hate because that's what my dad did. And they're going to have a miserable life because they don't think they're capable of anything better because no one showed them that they're worth more. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of jobs out there that suck, and we need people to do some of those jobs. We do. But those jobs aren't meant to be careers. They're not meant to be, you're not meant to work at that gas station 35 years. If you do, you do. Fine. Whatever. If you're happy and that's on you. But as a person who I assume, whoever hears this, has hopes and dreams, ideas, even that flicker of light, every now and then when you see a movie, go, wow, I'd like to drive a car like that, or I'd like to go a trip here, anything at all, whether it be leisure or whether it be work, you're capable of getting there. You can do it. Obviously, if you're 65 years old, probably you're not going to be like a professional athlete. However, you might have missed the buck on that one. Everything else you can do. I started the catering company in March, and I'm still honestly terrified because I will tell this right now. As a person, I am the polar opposite of my brother. He is plan, and I am roll the dice and play what rolls. Like I get the rough framework of something, and no matter what it is, I look at it and go, "Well, I understand how that works," and then I go with it. I don't study things. I don't practice them because if I do that, I have too much anxiety, and the more I prepare, the worse I do. But if I understand the basic framework of something, I could do it. I've just always been able to do that. So I decided after working at a catering company for 3 years, I can do this. I can do a better job, and I can make more money. I never expected that the first year of we launched a company that we'd be doing as well as we're doing. And now I'm just trying to keep my thumb on it and try to actually be more present and do the best job I can do.
Well, and I think that everybody gets a little window into both you and I today because of what we're talking about. It requires us to talk more about things that we've done or had to accomplish or even tried and failed. One of the points that I try to teach the kids to help with sustainability is part of that little bit, big bit, which you're gleefully telling me right now you don't necessarily follow quite yet, is the little milestones, the victories. A lot of times you tell me I sell myself short because I graduated from Mott at the community college. I didn't walk. My answer was I hadn't earned anything yet. It was when I got my bachelor's that I walked and I did all those things. That was a milestone. That was a marked milestone. I mean, other than getting accepted in college. My master's was a milestone. The book, getting the book published and getting it out to people, and which was difficult for me because I'm terrible with criticism. So getting that out was a milestone. And I still have these goals. This show is kind of becoming one. We did it because it was fun and we wanted to help in a way, but we actually got listeners and people getting a hold of us. So this is kind of turning out to something cool. Edible Landscape was a milestone, getting it as far as we have. And I have other ones. The Free and Fresh Water Project that I'm trying to put together, the Community Learning Center I'd like to build. I would someday like to be on a TED Talk, being able to take these programs somehow statewide or national wide. So I still have steps. I still have places to go and things to do, but it's little pieces that get us there and keep my mind from going nuts.
Yeah, but you're conflating two different types of pieces. The little things you did, the little things are great. Like, I'm gonna take what you did and place it as like a broken mirror. Okay, hear me out on this. I'm gonna sound crazy. So if you take a hammer, you just hit a mirror right in the middle of it. What happens? Okay, so
it shatters.
Well, yeah, it shatters. But if it's framed, which is kind of the goal I'm going with here, if it's a frame mirror where the head of the hammer hits, it's shattered in a bunch of tiny little pieces, cracks out spider webs, and then as it gets further, you have bigger and bigger pieces. So you could keep all the tiny pieces. Okay, you could keep all the tiny pieces, and what do you got? A handful of broken glass. But if you keep the bigger pieces and you keep the frame, you have the pieces to the old mirror. And if you want, you can put those back together and make a new one. I say that like that because yes, you went day after day and you went to school every day. But I'm going to tell you this right now, and don't take this the wrong way. If you do take it the wrong way, I'll just tell you you're wrong.
Nothing new.
Well, you going to school every day is no different than you going to a job you hated every day. taking the step to go there, that's not the big thing you did. Your mindset, your actual decision, your willpower, everything in you mentally that made that happen. That is the big change. That is what happened. That is what I'm telling you should be proud of. You may not feel like we should be proud of you, or you're not proud of certain things because you weren't where you wanted to be, or you still had places to go. It doesn't matter how many stops there were on the journey. You made the decision to make the journey. I don't care if you stopped at one place, 15 places, 37 places, you went to the Empire State Building, came down and went somewhere else. Every time you decided to go forward, like you weren't, not that you weren't happy, but you're like, well, I did this. How much more can I do? What is the power of my spirit? How far can I spread myself and be happy and content and be fulfilled? And you made that decision. Most people can't even grasp that. Not that they're not able to, they just don't fathom the notion that there's so much more they can do. That is the biggest milestone so many people overlook because they don't believe in themselves. You know how many people start going to school, and I'm one of them, start going to college and fail, not because they didn't like what they were going for, or not because, they weren't good enough, but because they simply felt like they couldn't do it. Because they got overwhelmed, they didn't believe in themselves, because they didn't feel like they were good enough, or they weren't worth the time they're putting into themselves. You overcame all of that crap. Like, that's amazing. And people in life don't get enough encouragement. They don't get enough people to slap on the back and say, wow, that is truly spectacular. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you every time I'm proud of you, because whether or not you think you need to hear it, I need to say it, because it's truly amazing.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we have done like almost 90 shows, and you have been fired up twice. Once about the ocean directly after watching a documentary, and apparently now talking about me.
I hate one thing in the world more than anything, and it's a bully. And I categorize all big commercial companies that destroy the environment, whether it be whether it be plant life, the ozone, or it's animal life. They're all bullies to me. If you're destroying something, I just watched 2 more documentaries today on salmon farming and a couple other in panga farming. We got to talk about that later. That's for a whole nother episode. I do get fired up about that, but the number one thing is people, because I really believe in my heart that with a little encouragement and constructive criticism, people can do amazing things. And I'm not discounting the validity and strength in someone's spirit when they wake up and they have those really bad days. That day where, like, you wake up and your dog's dead, or your car's broken and you're broke. I mean, like, those days where everything just falls apart around you, and those people still get up and go to work and put a smile on and give it their best. I'm not discounting the effort and the mental fortitude that takes. That is truly amazing. And I do commend those people. I'm just saying that when you get up and you're dealt a hand of cards in your life, and you just realize, wow, this hand kind of sucks. I mean, yeah, this strategy got me to the finals, but I don't think I'm going to win at the end of life. I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to reach, my golden years and be miserable because I didn't really enjoy what I did the first 50 years. So yeah, I get fired up about this stuff. I get fired up because I want people to succeed. I want people to be happy. I believe in my heart that this entire world benefits from reciprocity. But if you want people to, if you would like, sorry, give me a second here. I'm going on a rant again. If you want people to treat, it is a good thing, but I'm struggling here. I believe that the whole world benefits from reciprocity. And I believe that if you want people to treat you like you want to be treated, or how you would be treated, or if you want people just to see the value in you, you have to see it in yourselves and treat them the same way. Even when, and especially when things fall apart and they're not going your way, when you have those terrible days, look for inspiration, look for motivation, look for a shining example of beauty in the world. Stop and pet a cat in the street when you get the chance. Just find things in life to take love and pleasure in, and use that to motivate you to get more.
See, and I think everybody has to find their own way to create some kind of sustainability in their life.
Yes.
Me, I had to structure my thought process different. I turned everything into probabilities because I like math. I like science. I understand probabilities. There's no such thing as the world was out to get me, as long as it's a probability question. When all those things were going bad for me at a period of time, I needed a structure of thought that would keep me going. And that's what I did. So when I make decisions, and we're going to talk about our bodies here in a second, because that's what's first. I'm now just trying to put myself in the best position to have the highest probability. I'm going to use my COVID vaccination as an example. Actually, I can use the flu vaccination because I do get that every year. But I do it not because I believe it's going to stop the flu this year. I do it because year over year over year, I'm building this immunity to different strains. I'm increasing my later probabilities of not getting sick. And my decisions I make are the same way. It doesn't matter if they're financial. It doesn't matter if they are relationships. It doesn't matter if it is my own mental health. I have to look at my options, put myself in the best possible spot. And if it falls apart, I say, well, there was a small percentage chance that would happen, and it happened, instead of feeling like it happened to me again.
I fervently believe that when bad things happen in life, you can always ask yourself why. Now, you can ask yourself why once, or you can ask yourself why until you get to a real reason. It's really easy to point the finger at different things in life and say, "Well, that's why my day sucked," or "I got pulled over, so that cop's a jerk." And it's really simple to say why once, point a finger, and go on with your day. It's really easy to feel like a victim. It is simple. It is addicting to feel like a victim verbally, and get that sympathy card. I don't know how many of you have ever heard the phrase, "do as I say, not as I do," but more often than not, your kid is going to do what they see you do and hear you do way more than what you tell them to do. You have to set the example. I learned that very hard as a parent. I still struggle with it. More often than not, when I'm angry at my children, it's my own fault. It's hard for me to say why, but I can't point the finger at them and take the blame. You live your life on probability. I live my life by asking why. Why does this bother me? Why didn't this work?
To have a sustainable life, we all have to grow. We all have to get better. And I think a lot of times when I go online, I get on Facebook or Instagram or wherever I happen, because I'm always on there for our stuff. There's always so many things on my personal Facebook of someone blaming someone else. And if we want to have a sustainable life, I think I said to a friend of mine just recently, if you're always grading someone else by your standards, you will always be miserable. Because
Absolutely.
not people who don't know you won't necessarily live up to your standards. They're going to live up to their standards. Like the first section on here I have talk about is body, diet, exercise. Am I living a sustainable life in myself? I'm not. I'm still trying. But I'll tell you right now, I have cut down some meat. I'm eating more vegetables because they're growing all around me, but I certainly had some Funyuns with them. I'm still doing these things that are counterproductive. I know that artificial sugars get in my body and it makes my body crave real sugar. I know this. I'm making poor choices. I'm not making sustainable choices in this section of my life. And I give myself excuses, cravings, addictions, years of television telling me what to eat and drink. But I also give myself excuses. I have to walk the city tonight and make sure those vegetables are okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm losing the battle in my mental sustainability when it comes to my physical body. Now, mental is different, financial is different, relationships, all these categories can fit into sustainability, and we just have to look at it the same way we look at anything in sustainability.
Well, absolutely. Your body, heart, mind, soul, however your being as a person is a machine. Everything's got to be taken care of and maintained properly for everything to work. And I am going to have a hard time talking about this. I have been terrible as far as the body aspect goes. I mean, anyone that's never seen me, I'm a morbidly obese fellow. Look, I'm a large guy, and I have been big most of my life. But recently, the last I'd say 6 to 8 weeks, I've been extra depressed about my weight. I haven't really wanted to do much. I haven't exercised at all. I mean, I've been eating like trash. I didn't even realize I was depressed about my weight. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks the other day. I'm so unhappy with the way I look and the way I feel, and it's frustrating. It is, but I'm also on the flip side. I'm a terrible self-starter. I really am. I don't have that probability planning gene that my brother has, and so unless I get really motivated, I don't like. I'll be depressed. I'll know I'm depressed, and it's like my brain just goes, I don't care. When I really do care, I care very much. I'm working hard to try to change that, but I just like in terms of the mental well being, it's hard. I've been focusing so much on my my business that I'm sure my personal life has struggled. Like it's a balancing act we all have to play, and I am fighting my shortcomings fiercely. And a lot of days I feel like I'm losing. I don't know where to go with this, Mike. Throw
Well,
something
it's
out there.
I can do that. It's important to understand, especially the body side. First of all, there's a mental side. We should be happy with who we are no matter what. It's other images, it's other things that throw us off. I have the same problem. I have insecurities. I just do my best to hide them to the best of my ability. But it's our body. What I need to do is spend more time focusing on, is my meal sustainable to the earth? Is my meal sustainable to my longevity? Is my meal sustainable to my finances? I have to look at things a little different, look a little deeper. You talk about you ask why. In engineering, it's called the 5 whys. That's a root cause analysis. Every time I fail at something, I have to reflect and I have to own it, which I'm not a big fan of. But
Who is?
as I age, you know me, I played combat sports, collision sports. I threw my body everywhere.
Yeah, the fact that your brain works this well at this stage of your life is actually pretty impressive.
Well, I was boxing all the way up to 36. So my body, I wake up sometimes and things just creak, and I have time left on this clock. Like I need to do some things. So I need to be more motivated. I need to think about these things. One of the reasons why I wanted to have this show, even though it turns out, we're doing this as kind of a free for all, but I want people to think about these little things. I want them to stop for a second. No different than if you're going to go buy a new bag, you're going to look at the tags, see where they're made. This one's in China. You've listened to this show long enough. You're going to start doing this embodied energy thing and do it to yourself. Look at yourself and say, if I eat 3 Snickers a day, I don't get extra days at the end. I seriously ate probably a third of a bag of Funyuns before this. I have a garden full of food. I have a tremendous amount of fruits and vegetables I have access to them. It is just, I'm making choices that are not sustainable. And I want people to look at those and see if they are, and see if there's a way they could look at them and see them better. I see it. I know I'm wrong, but I have to figure out my way to do it. And some of it is just being strong enough to do it, because there's other aspects. Mental health is important. When we look at sustainability, I think a lot of people ignore mental health when it comes to sustainability.
I'm sure they do. Think about the amount of things in your life you have chose to deal with that you knew you weren't going to want to. Things that not even things you had to deal with, just it would make it easier on someone else. So you took the brunt of it and just dealt with it. And I say this as a father and as a husband. There are some things you deal with that you don't want to deal with flat out in life, especially at your work, especially with your career. Sometimes in life, you just have to eat crow for the sake of eating crow, even if that means someone else doesn't have to. And once in a while is great, but you have to know your limits. You have to know when you're starting to run thin, when your ability to process it runs out. And I say it like that because it is an ability. Like sometimes you have to decompress. Everyone decompresses differently. I am a very extroverted, jovial, bubbly person 90% of the time, but about every 7 or 8 days, I need a day where I need to unplug and just get away from the entire world. I can deal with a lot of stress and a lot of BS. I can deal with a lot of really angry people better than the average person, but at the end of the day, I get saturated with that negativity and it needs to go, or my mental wellness goes. And I am not a person you want to be toxic. I like to say I paint this image that I'm like the Buddha, this big happily bubbly hood, but I'm not. I get really, really, really nasty when I don't give myself the respect I need.
Well, and negativity is contagious. And if you've had it long enough, addictive.
It's a poison.
It is something that seeps into our life. I see it. You've heard me discuss it. I don't talk about a lot of this stuff on the show, but I see so much negativity around, which is really one of the reasons why we were doing the Edible Landscape Project, is to show kindness on display and throw it in everybody's face and say, be nice. instead of this nonstop negativity that's out there.
That's
It
your
is
idea. I just want every time someone complained, I want to take a cucumber and shove it in their mouth. That's what I was going for.
and what happens is we become negative. And I know this from myself. We become negative and we create this negative feedback loop where our decision that we make makes something go wrong, which creates more negativity, which puts us in a worse position for something good to happen. And shockingly enough, it doesn't. And we get more negative and more negative. And I think we allow that far too often.
No, you're right. And that's why earlier I used the term toxic because, okay, I'm going to quote a Spider-Man movie, but in one of the movies I watched as a kid, the phrase is revenge is like a poison. Now, we're not necessarily talking about revenge, but I can tell you that if you wake up and you're in a really bad mood and you walk around with this scowl, this nasty, snarly looking face, most of the people that you know are gonna just kind of go, "Oh, what's wrong with her?" And they might be cordial to you, but when you leave, they're gonna be like, why is she or why is he in such a bad mood? Why are they being so rude? Why are they being short?" The people that love you will ask you what's wrong, but you only spoke to those people with the bare bones. And even if you think you're being courteous, you'll be amazed at how much your negativity, even if you try to keep it inside, influenced your interaction with them, and that spreads. I am a way over analytical person when it comes to other people's facial expressions and tones and the way they move, their demeanor, their body language. I pay attention to way more than I think the average person should. And so when people are crappy with me, even if they don't mean to be, like I pick up on it. And honestly, Michael, it carries over. There is some times where I just find myself in a more of an exhausted or a frustrated mood, and I don't really have a reason. All I can tell you is I went to a grocery store and the clerk was being very short with me, not necessarily rude, just not being, the fun, expressive person I expect them to be. And their negativity rubbed off on me. And I can't be the only person in the world that happens to. Like, negativity spreads. The thing that I find disheartening is that the average person is so much faster to complain and throw a fit about things they don't like than they are to brag or spread good news. I
Well,
wish every day people had 5 amazing things to tell their friends and family.
Well, and every day, every time someone turns on a television or looks at their phone, there's a fist fight at a school meeting, or we report on negative. Like we've discussed about Facebook, it depends. I won't push the mad face on Facebook because it gets 4 times the weight of anything else. They'll just show you more things that make you mad. Yeah, you're voting to see angry things. It
I
is.
I agree, but I still, when I see people eating a well done steak, or I don't know, a steak with ketchup on it, I will
That
push
wasn't
that
me.
man's face.
That
No,
was not me.
it
That was
was
my
not
son
you.
Aiden.
But him and I are gonna have a long talk when I shove a piece of medium rare beef in his mouth.
This weekend, by the way, this upcoming weekend, we're going camping. You will have that opportunity.
I'm gonna hide all the ketchup in the campground. No one is getting it.
I think the most important thing that we can do is create mental tools. So I have some. I think we all have some mental tools that get us where we need to be, get us recalibrated. When I get around too much negativity, you'll know, because if you have joined my Facebook, my personal Facebook, you will know, because I will never say a lot of hateful things. But when there's a lot of hateful things going on, you're going to get an overload of kindness coming out of my Facebook. There'll be songs, there'll be all kinds of things just pouring out. That's my rebuttal to the nastiness I see. The biggest thing I do is I have recalibration things. I love science. Carl Sagan can speak to my soul. And if I need to recalibrate who I am as a person, Pale Blue Dot does it.
That is beautiful.
Neil deGrasse Tyson has that ability to kind of pull me back out of the yuckiness of the rest of the world and put me back into where I need to be as a teacher, as a facilitator, as someone who is an expert in a field. I have to have my head right before I speak to people. He can do that. And I find little songs. Recently, I posted a song called Earth by Little Dicky. Didn't know it existed, and in case
so
anybody's
funny.
wondering, it's not for children. Do not play it for children. It's for adults. But it's an upbeat, gives you a little hope, keeps you happy. These are the things that I do when I recognize that I'm being upset.
There's a few things. Now, if I get so saturated with emotion, with anger and sadness, that I need like to let it out versus let it go away. I don't believe, for starters, I believe emotion is like energy. I think that it can't be destroyed. It just goes away one way or the other. I don't like when you're really angry, like, I mean really angry, whatever the problem is needs to be resolved. But whether you're the problem or whatever it is, it needs to be taken care of. If something really rattles you to your core, you can't just act like it didn't happen, because trust me, eventually that dog will bark again. So in those moments, I tend to listen to music that really vibrates with me, like really resonates with me at my core, to where it pulls an emotional reaction out. And then I come downstairs and I'll beat the snot out of my punching bag and I'll scream and I'll cry. And I get, when I'm like that, I'll be honest, when I'm that emotional, the more I hit it, the faster I hit it, the more I feel it working up, and I get more angry and more angry until at the end I'm just a sobbing mess. The other side of it, when I get really, really down about people, really, really down about people, whether that be from the news, my social media, Facebook. I say Facebook because I don't really use a whole lot of social media. I have Twitters and Instagrams and stuff, but I'm very seldom on them. But when I get really down, I listen to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life lectures. I've probably heard every one of them 100 times. I know them almost all word by word, but it's something, he articulates so many things that I've always felt but never knew how to say in those lectures, that it makes me feel like I'm not a freak and I'm not alone, and that it's okay to feel certain ways, and it's okay to admit that, sometimes in life you are just a sad, pathetic loser. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say this right now. Now, following my rant about people being able to do amazing things, sometimes you have to admit when you're a loser. There's a lot of moments in my life where I was a loser. I can say that. That's not a call for people to tell me, oh, no, you weren't. No, I'm not. That's not like a thing I'm sad about. I'm real with myself. There are lots of moments in my life where I sucked. I was a negative person. I was an angry person. I was a toxic person. I didn't even crap on my family or my friends or my job. Like, I understand the things that I went through, but I never knew there were other people that went through that kind of stuff too. So when I get sad about people, I need to listen to professionals that know about people, that it can explain on an emotional level, in a psychological level, behind all the, the hoopla that people put online, why people do the things they do. Because I'm a big advocate of why. I like the root cause analysis. I think if everyone lived by that, the world would be a much easier, simpler place.
With mental health, I always throw in a disclaimer. It's in my book and it's going to be here. Nothing we do or say supersedes a doctor. Sometimes mental health has chemical imbalances or other aspects that are extremely important to be managed by professionals. So as we talk about these things, please don't think that we discount that in any way, shape, or form, because I'm not telling you, oh, do this, you'll be fine. That is absolutely not it, because I don't know you, and every human is different. And so always, please, if you're getting dark, you're getting down, you're having these issues, talk to the professionals, because it is extremely important. That is what they do. They can help with that. And sometimes those cards that are dealt, they didn't give you all the cards, and that doctor can help with that. It will help you create tools. I want everybody to understand that disclaimer. No one is discounting that. We just have to do what's right for ourselves to make sure we're in the right place for mental health. Are you doing the steps? Are you happy today?
Absolutely. I think that one of the most wonderful things you just said was that we're really just expressing the things that we've been through, what correlates to our lives. In no way, shape, or form do we set the precedent for what the average person should expect. Everyone's different. Everyone is unique in their own way. Everyone has their own special type of cocktail of what I like to call calm and crazy. We're all different kinds of yin yangs, and everyone has things that, they're a little different. I know a lot of people in life that are medicated because they have a hormone imbalance or there's something not quite right. They're not ashamed of it, and they shouldn't be. You have to play the cards that you were dealt. I have a friend of mine that has epilepsy. Epilepsy, for those who don't know, a lot of epilepsy medications are strong mood enhancers or mood stabilizers. And so him on his medication and off his medication is very different. But he needs that to function normally, or the normal he prefers. I respect that. He knows what he needs and he goes after it. And I think that that's half the battle. Finding out, finding the things that make your life bearable, that make it easier, that make your existence in the world a little bit better, to allow you to move forward, to give you the confidence to grow, and to make those positive changes in your life. If you want to go after an amazing job that you've never thought you could do, give it a shot. If you want to change your careers, go to school, give it a shot. If you want to make your husband's life miserable and tell him you're doing plant-based diets for a month, give it a shot. I mean, do you, boo.
I think that when we talk about sustainability, we've talked about mental health, we've talked about like body and diet, but there's other aspects like relationships. And I don't just mean husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, but our relationships with our own kids, our parents, people that are acquaintances, how we relate to others. And when it comes to our relationships, it takes a minute because sometimes people are nasty. And as you were stating earlier, may not even had anything to do with you.
More often than not, it doesn't. You can never really know what goes on in someone else's life. If you're only in someone's day for an hour, there's 23 other hours of the day. How do you know what happens?
Right. I have to stop and say, are my actions promoting good? Am how I'm handling this and how I'm talking? We're both married. Sometimes things can be testy. You have to stop for a minute. Am I handling this correctly, or am I putting dents in our relationship? Because if we want to sustain a relationship for a long period of time, we got to stop putting dents in things. We got to start working together to solve problems. And sometimes that's hard. Emotions, again, I think I've said this in the past, that emotions make people do silly things. I mean, there's studies all the way back to the 1900s proving it. If we get emotional, we will do silly things. We have to be able to think through them.
Well, you have to ask yourself why. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. But ultimately, I wasn't going to mention this, but you did, so I'm going to go on it. You're right. We're married. So if you get in a fight with your wife, you have two options. You can listen to all the reasons because she's going to tell you that why you're in trouble, what you did, why you suck, whatever. And you can listen to her to respond, or you can listen to listen. Figure out, okay, well, she's mad. But am I guilty of this? Did I do this? Does she have validation in her anger? First things first, everyone has validation on their feelings. I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but if people have feelings, if they have emotions, if you love them and you want them in your life, you better show them some respect. If she's mad at you, even if it's a misunderstanding, respect that. If you did something stupid, you better man up and say you're sorry. Woman up, whatever, however you want to call it. A lot of times my wife's mad at me. It's my fault. I know it is. I'm not saying that because I'm married. I'm saying that because it's my fault. When I do stupid things and I don't remember things, I've got a terrible memory. She could tell me or ask me, hey, will you take the garbage out? I'll forget it 3 seconds later. If I don't get up at that moment and do it, it ain't getting done. I am terrible.
One of the things that I've started to look at, and we'll move to the next section here, is when my wife comes to me and said, you did this, does my brain immediately say, but you did that? Because if that's true, if my brain is like, well, you did this, that's an admittance to to her complaint. If I can't defend myself for that complaint, and I immediately try to do, you see it with politics all the time. Everybody has their team players, and they'll go, this person did this. Oh yeah, well your guy did that. Well, that's still not making anything better. We're just lowering the standard for humanity. So when that happens in my relationships and my brain goes to that, I'm creating a red flag of I'm wrong. Stop right now and just admit I'm wrong.
That's one way to look at it. So when she comes to you and she's like, well, I'm mad about this, or you didn't do this, I'd say almost every person, unless they have many years of like really, really focusing on the way they behave, the first natural reaction when you're attacked with anything is to respond. It's honestly, Mike, that's normal. It's normal. When you get hit, you want to swing back. Or you want to backpedal and get out of it. It's fight or flight. And emotional fight or flight is the same thing as physical. So when someone's like, they come at you and they scream at you, yell at you, or they're really snappy and snarly, yeah, you could go, well, you did this. You could do that if you want to fight. Or you could go, you could, because I feel that when something happens, I feel myself get ready to snap back. I've got to stop myself and go, okay, well, first and foremost, I apologize. And then I admit that, especially, I mean, obviously, if I didn't do it, then do it. But if I'm guilty, I just say, you're right. The other day, we were out to dinner and I was on my phone, and my wife's like, yeah, you're on your phone way too much. She's like, we can't even have a conversation without you being on the phone or talking to someone. And she was right. I admitted my guilt. I told her I apologized, and I would try to, give myself a little time away from it because it wasn't fair to her. We're out together. Her phone's not in her hand, and I'm just, Facebooking while we're supposed to be having a nice meal. She was right. That has to be able to be understood. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You should always listen to someone's feelings to admit that. I mean, who really wants to have an argument? Do you guys really want to fight?
Right. And what we're talking about is trying to create a long-term sustainability in our relationships. And the only way we're going to do that is to be open, honest, and we're not putting dents in the relationship, throwing things at each other verbally. It is really just stopping and realizing, no, I do want another 30 years with this person, and they're right. And I need to own it. And the same thing, the last category that I had here was finances. And it took me a long time, a long, long, long time to control my finances correctly. But what I've learned is if I do that, my mental health, my relationships, all these things are easier. I don't have as much stresses because I'm telling you, a lot of times you have one stress that screws the rest up. And I gotta tell you, in America, quite often it's finances. I don't know if it is in the rest of the countries. If it is, let us know. But most cases, finances are the thing that causes all kinds of problems and everything. And it was an old boss years and years ago who said, if you're not making something every day, and he doesn't mean like you went to work that day and got your check, that your bank account got slightly larger, even if it was 1 penny, but it never went backwards. It had to get bigger one way or another because you're selling your life. The things you're doing for money, you are literally selling your life away. That time that could be done walking through a forest, planting flowers or vegetables in a city, or hugging your kid. That if you are not making progress, you're wasting that time. And that hit home. That was the first time I really saw. Now, was I able to make that change right away? No, it took years, but it was hard words to swallow because I had wasted all the years prior.
Well, sometimes the hardest things to admit or the hardest things to swallow are the things you need. It's kind of like there's no such thing as medicine that tastes good. It's the kind of the same concept. Anything that's worth doing is going to be difficult or hard to accept at times. And that was great advice. That I don't know who it was, but that person was. I'm just gonna assume it was Mike at Sprint because I love that dude. But maybe it wasn't. I don't know which boss you had, but that dude was awesome. I don't know, man. It's hard for a lot of people to comprehend that, and I'm struggling. You talk about finances, Lord have mercy. That is money is the kryptonite to my existence. It's a necessary kryptonite, unfortunately. It's hard. It really is. And you're right. It produces an immense amount of stress on you when you're struggling to pay bills and you don't know if rent's going to be able to get paid on time or consumers, especially you're just starting to, I mean, I'm going to put some of your laundry out there. You lived in a trailer, in the midst of your change going to school. When you decide to etch a sketch your life, as you put it, you pretty much paid all your bills and fed your children by eBay. So
Mm-hmm.
that's stress. That's pain, and it's real and it's raw. And if you don't know how to handle it, if you don't know how to manage it and prevent it from happening, it'll tear you up.
Well, and we always promote when we talk about sustainability, spending less, doing more, using less. If you follow sustainability as a way of life, you're going to spend less money because you want less production, you want less produced things. And that by default creates this positive feedback loop. Not only are you building your positive footprint like we talk about, but you're also saving money, putting money in an account, getting that calm feeling, knowing that you can pay this bill because heavy stress grossly reduces human health. There are study after study that shows that financial stresses can lead to increased depression, insomnia, anxiety, all these things. None of these things are good. When I worked for a job I really, really hated years and years ago, I had a rash over half my body. I thought it was because I bought a leather coat. I also had an eye twitch. When I quit, it was gone before I got to the car.
Really?
Stresses do amazingly weird things to our brains, and our brains cause all kinds of problems to the rest of the body. So one of the easiest things that we can do is slowly make decisions. If it means not stopping to get a coffee every day. During the time that you're talking about me, I shut it all down, almost everything down, and literally had to start completely over. I tell people all the time, if you shut it down for 3 years, you can put a phone alarm in your phone for 3 years later, and you don't buy anything you absolutely don't have to have. You're in a great place when that phone alarm goes off. It's 3 years, and that 3 years was terrible, but I was in a much better place when it was done. And I probably lived a more sustainable life half the time. Credit wise, I looked that up. 73% of people in the United States believe that finances are the leading cause of stress in their life.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it actually goes further than that, though. I obviously, disclaimer, I'm no doctor. I have zero medical training. I'm just going to repeat things I've been told by my doctor. So take it, or leave it. But here is your grain of salt for the day. Stress can lead to higher cortisol levels. And if you're stressed, especially about finances, consistently, like all the time, if you're a check-to-check person who barely makes enough to scrape by, if you're a single mom, as a big guy, cortisol levels are one of the biggest hormones. I think it's considered the hormone that leads to weight gain, and it makes you crave fatty foods and rich foods and sugar. It's good in the sense that cortisol does increase carbohydrate metabolism. That part's true, but it makes you crave just as much as you eat. Like it makes you crave more than you're burning. And if you're a kind of person like me, and you may not be, but one of my biggest downfalls is when I'm really stressed about money, like really stressed, I look for that quick fix, not like a drug or like alcohol, just something to make me happy. So like food or like scratch off, something really quick, like a real fast, like, ooh, happy. It's bad. Like it's really bad for your mental well-being. It's honestly, it's better to pay all your bills and just kind of be broke than it is to rob Peter to pay Paul and then take $20 and waste it on something like a double cheeseburger and fries you don't really need because you're really happy for the 35 seconds you're gobbling it down. And then it's gone, and now your money's gone, you feel miserable, and you're still depressed. Like, you're still sad. Financial trouble is the real deal. Like, it's really nasty, and especially in our day-to-day lives where everyone wants lots of money to allow you to live. It sucks. It really does. But you can't allow yourself to have a hold on you. It's going to ruin the rest of your life.
And I want everybody to realize this episode was almost a venting from the two of us. This is a plea to everybody to look at those parts of their lives to make it a little bit better, because we're still working on it too. Now that we see that these are parts of sustainability, I have urgency to fix some of these things because I do believe it makes our lives better. And we do believe that if everybody else sees that, there'd be a lot more kindness. There'd be a lot more gentle out there. So take it all with a grain of salt. It's your life. Do it as you see fit. And remember, if there's anything medical, always consult your doctor first.
Amen.
That's all we have this week. If you liked our ranting of an episode, and we'll probably have to revisit these in smaller sections for other episodes because I think there's a lot here, and maybe we can get Rob to come in or someone else to come in and discuss it with us too. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or share it on social media. Other ways that you can support realistic sustainability is by becoming a monthly sustainer on our Anchor site. For as little as 99 cents per month, you can support sustainability. That's less than $12 a year and quite often a meal. As we're talking about your financial sustainability, please make sure that you are not donating to us when you really can't. Because if you can't, there's other ways to help us, like leave us a 5-star review. It's free and it does help us. On your favorite podcast platform, just click on the 5 stars and type in whatever you'd like. It helps not only us get in the rankings, but it's your words that convince other people to give us a shot. So we do appreciate that. And you heard a lot today. You got to know us a little bit more. But the end result is we only have to get a little better each day. That little bit, big bit that I talk about from my mom years and years ago, that's all we have to do is try and occasionally get it right. So that's all we have. I'm Mike.
I'm Nick, and I'm exhausted.
And we'll see you next week.
Feeling overwhelmed by climate change? Looking for sustainable and ethical brands to support? that Ethic is perfect for you. Ethic is a simple browser extension that helps you find sustainable and ethical brands online. Learn more at ethic.org, ethyk.org.